Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to do this in English. Apologies for being the last, hopefully not the least, of the speakers. And what I'm going to do is going to take less than 10 minutes, so in no time we will be out for the whatever it is, the drinks or cocktail or networking. So I'm going to shoot immediately, and the word for today, as we said, is how we move, how we move, and I like to call it under this title, how to circle the square, because up to now we have been trying really to square the circle. Now we have to think in the opposite way, and this is how to circle the square now. This is non-technical presentation, and it's more to give a view of what is possible and what we can really do. Not what we cannot do, but what we can really do. So we are facing a crisis, and we see it as a climate change. We have only one option, is to solve the problem. Permanent solution is one that would create value and benefit to everybody who is involved, all the stakeholders, and we heard all the presentations about them. And each one of us and all of us together, we have a role in creating this ecosystem. Now, what you see is one possible holistic strategy for a company, and that's how it might look. A green pillar in a strategy, and it's a real one. It comes from our company, with 6 independent projects that all together they complement and they make this strategic pillar. So what it could include? It could be about circular economy, green products, carbon footprint, green energy in renewable sources, zero waste, and policy for green areas. I'm going to explain more or less what that means. So how did we start looking at it? First we said, okay, let's start with the easy stuff. What is it? What do we throw away? We don't want to throw away anything, so we said zero waste. Zero quantities to landfill, and use only licensed streams for any material. And that means we had to recognize all our waste streams, manage and reduce all of them. We're still doing it, and hopefully very soon achieve zero waste. Then, once that is out of the way, carbon footprint. How much is our carbon footprint as a company? We went to a specialist, and we put as a target to have published and transparent carbon footprint, already doing this since 2019. Calculation for every product, but also have yearly reduction targets. We had to go back, calculate all operations footprint. We are in the certification process of this, and we are committed to investments in all the reduction. Then, the obvious thing that we had to reduce is energy. And on this one, first we had to reduce what we have been using, and that's energy. So that's one of the technical topics that we will see just after that. Set ambitious targets that we know it could be possible, but at the same time, in parallel, go and invest in renewable sources and we have the target to reach 50% very soon. Then, one other possible way to mitigate the effects is find ways of capturing carbon, and we have that as our policy for green areas, and we have a yearly commitment for planting and maintaining trees in green areas, and this is our way to make a positive impact to our carbon footprint. How do we offset it? This is the direction we decided. So the idea here is not to talk about all the specific steps, but to say that this is possible. This is possible to do. Each company can and should have a holistic approach and a strategic approach to our climate project. So now, since we said it's not going to be technical, but the technical part that might be interesting for engineers like us is two things. The one is the circular economy. So close the loop, move from recycling to final product, and obviously have finally the green products. So, as we talked about energy, how did we manage to tackle technically our problems? So we first had to go and measure. And what's the challenge in measuring? You need to measure systematically, and you need to measure your process. And then, once you do that, you have to benchmark against what is international best practice. And how difficult this is. The difficulty of this is to find data, which is sector specific, because general data don't matter. You have to know if you're doing well or how far you are from what is known as best practice. Once that is more or less executed, then you have to say, okay, how do we improve? So, what's the relevant technology? What's the process saying, and how do we engineer the process? What's the challenge? Where's that technology available? Who is the manufacturer? What is the recent latest technology which is proven, but also how much does it cost? Then you go to the next step, which is financing and return on investment, more or less like we saw the tool just before. What turns first? What has an impact? Then you prioritize in terms of that. That's how we went about the energy. And once that's on the way, the renewable sources, find the technologies, which technology is mature, and what's the production profile, so that you have to match that to the process, and find the load profile of each one of your specific processes, what can be changed, what can be adapted, and then you have to match the two. Implementation, more or less like what we said on the energy reduction. What's the legislation that governs that? How do we get the licenses? Identify the suppliers, get the costing, what terms in terms of investment, prioritize it first. So that's energy in just highlight the high-level titles. So last thing is our products. The products in the plastic sector, they have a big challenge, and we really need to turn them more and more into circular. But what is a circular product? Circular product has more or less four characteristics. It has to be financially viable. It has to make economic sense for everybody in the value chain. Then there should be a market need. People should need about it, and should need it. And then how do we secure that? We need specifications, because it has to be suitable, and it also has to look nice. It should not look terrible. Certification, it has to be certified. It has to be certified in properties and performance, but also certified in percentage of material from hopefully local recycling streams. And since it's not here, it has to be innovative. It has to be designed with a purpose to use designated recycling streams in a useful product. Okay, what are the challenges? Well, first, raw material. You have to identify what is the available waste streams. Could be, in our sector, pipes at end of life. We're talking about Cyprus now. Woven bags, material bags, agricultural film, pallets and crates, window profiles, milk bottles, you name it, but these are major streams. Or the other option is to get available recycled material from suppliers. Then it's about getting your process to comply with this. You have to design and implement recycling. If you're going to do that in-house, get the relevant licensing, which is not easy in this country, identify what the process technologies are, identify the possible products so that you match, and you introduce suitable machinery to have a pilot plan, and you actually see as an engineer that what your idea and what your design is actually works. These are some examples: protection cables for protection plates for cables, sewage or telecom pipes with 3-layer, irrigation pipe through research programs, and yeah, that has been possible to do, but then we have to test it. What is relevant testing for including non-virgin material? What are the product concepts? And then obviously we have to produce, test, go back, make the full cycle. In reality, what we had to do and what we still have ahead of us is to redevelop all our product ranges that they fall under this title. More on the fittings. These are mostly for the international market: support systems, landscape irrigation components, and green fittings for water supply and irrigation. And then, once we know we have the properties, then we have to certify. Either we certify to existing standards, or we have to develop new green standards that allow recycled content to be in, and they direct it to specific properties and applications. But that's not the last one. To avoid greenwashing, then we have to certify the circularity aspect of a product, and there is locally with the CYS a relevant effort to develop a standard in a CYS committee, TC26. And I know it's not a lot of us here, but what is actually going to get this project on its 2 feet is to have market demand. And this is where we all come into play. We need approval from end users, specification by engineers once they feel that the certification and the fitness to purpose is there, and it has to also be demanded by legislation. Just to say that this is also possible. There is a technical engineering way that we can take this forward, and ultimately it will depend on the market and the legislation to get this actually flowing and be a reality. So what's the conclusion? This is a comprehensive approach for a polymer plastic processor. We feel that as a plastic expert we can see that we should give value to plastic waste and not just leave it lying there. We have to find new ways of creating values in this stream, and in all this process we like to have our company to be a model company for this environmental and circular approach. So, thank you very much.